Hello everyone, welcome to Dikshant classes. Today I am going to discuss about the Belmont Report, under which and its important concept of research ethics. First, we under the Belmont Report discussed about the overreaching principles. First principle is respect for persons. The researcher should take informed consent before taking data from the respondents. It's a primary duty of the researcher to inform the respondent where the data will used, and it take informed consent before taking or collecting data. Next is coercion is unethical. So here the coercion is unethical. You cannot, the researcher cannot force the respondent to give data and participate in the research. Otherwise, it is illegal. Next is beneficence. It means utilities. And ethical decision making. The cost benefit analysis. The researcher should take ethical decision making, and it's analyze the cost benefit analysis. Next is justice. The researcher should equally treat distribute the risk and benefits to the respondents. The next concept is the principle of respect for human dignity. The first is the right to self-determination. Human should be treated as autonomous agents because they take decisions of their self. What is the benefit, what their loss in the research, and capable of controlling. Humans are capable of controlling their own activities. Here the human should be treated as a human, as a autonomous agent, because humans are taking decision independently and they are capable of controlling their own activities. The next is the right to full disclosure. It's a duty of researcher to fully describe the nature of study, and subject to right to refuse participation, researcher responsibilities and risk and benefits. The next concept is the steps involved in a survey. The first steps is the inability of the individuals to make the well-informed judgments. Bias. Next is sometimes the researchers will be biased and subjective the particular things. Concealment is the researcher should not hidden the research and what the participate. Oh yeah. Data will use it. Next is deception. Deception means researchers should not cheat the respondents who are in their studies, and say it is properly mentioned that where the data will be used, how the data will be used, and ensure that the data will not use illegally. The next is the risk-benefit ratios. Under these two categories, major potential benefits to participant, major potential risk to participant. First, we discuss about the major potential benefit to participants. Access and intervention that otherwise will be unavailable to them. Researchers must be access to all the information, all the respondent and intervention data otherwise will be unavailable to them. Comfort to discuss situation with a friendly person, and the researcher should must be comfortable to discuss the situations with a friendly person, and increase knowledge of them. Researchers should increase knowledge of themselves. Satisfaction in help others. The researchers should have satisfying in helping others. Next is monetary or material gain. The researchers should be very motive. Monetary benefit or material gain, then it's unethical for the researcher. Totally wrong. Next is major potential risk to the participants. First is monetary cost, physical harm. The and it will be the wrongful practice. The researchers should take a monetary cost and physical harms. Money from the respondent and take it, and it's a physical harm. So boredom. Sometimes the researchers will boredom of the research and fatigue from research and physical discomfort. Psychological or emotional discomfort. Researchers should not be distract from the psychological or emotional discomfort from the research. Social. Sometimes there are some social done properly. The loss of privacy. Sometimes there is loss of privacy. Researchers should ensure the privacy of the respondent who are participating in the research. Loss of time. Sometimes there is loss of time. The questions are not so much. There is loss of time. Next is research ethics. Research ethics are vulnerable, sensitive. Research ethics must be done at the time of data collection. We collect the data, data analysis, analyze the data interpretation, analyze the data interpretation properly, and reporting, etc. Next is non vulnerable and non sensitive. The researchers should discuss about the problems what they face in the research, and the objectives must be according to do work, do their work according to the hypothesis in tentative statement whether it's true or not, and it should be answered and non-structured, and it is sampling means we have to take the sample from the population. Next is risk benefit ratios. Ethics means what we have to do, what to not do. What are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders? Means who are the stakeholders involved in the research study? Are there human subject or not? Benefit with harm. So what are the benefit of research? What are the benefits of researchers because you take the population respondents? What are the harms? What are the what are the harms? What they are harms? Is there any loss to the researchers? Can the harm to be mitigated? Can harms you face is to be mitigated or not? Transparency and consented. Next is transparency and consented. It means that the researcher should be transparent in the while then collecting data, analyzing data, interpreting and reporting the data. Do the researcher need to be get informed with the consent from the user? Similarly, it means that the researcher need to be informed to data collect from the users, to consent from the users. Are the researchers transferred enough or not informed properly? Next is laws. Did the researcher violate any law in the US and internationally? Did the researchers violating any laws in the US and internationally? Next is some desirable elements to ensure ethics in research. Researchers must be honest to report the data, method, procedure, and publication. Objective researchers must be work according to the objective research to avoid biases in experiment design, data analysis, and interpretation peer. Integrity researchers must be act with sincerity, striving for consistency of thought and action. Next is careful. So researchers must be to avoid careless errors, negligence, proper documentations of all aspects. Next is openness. Researchers must share the results, data, the ideas, tools, resources. Openness. The researcher must be share the data, results, idea, tools, resources. Openness to criticism and new idea. Respect for intellectual property. Researcher must be respect for intellectual property rights such as patents, we innovate something, copyrights, and other form of intellectual property. Next is confidentiality. Researcher must be confidential for in context of communications and the personal record they are collected and the privacy issue. Responsible publications with an aim to serve the society. The researcher must be the responsible for publication with society. Avoid useful and duplicative publication. Responsible mentoring in the researcher must be responsible mentoring in terms of the guiding research student. Respect for collaboration must be researcher must be give respect to the colleagues and receive colleagues respected and translate to the exiting fair treatment to the colleagues. Next is social responsibility. Social responsibility. The researcher must be social responsible to serve the society and different stakeholders. Non-discrimination against colleagues or students. Researcher must be non-discriminate against colleagues or students in the basis of sex, age, race, or factors that are not related to the scientific competence and integrity. Next is important ethical issues is collecting information for the research before collecting any research data or information. Request for information may put pressures to create an anxiety or respondent. It may not be ethical, but without research there is no intellectual progress or development in the society. Seeking it means that before the researcher actually collect the information, his request for the information may put a pressure or create an anxiety on a respondent. It may not be ethical, but without research there is no intellectual progress or the development in society. Next is seeking consent of participants. The researcher must seeking consent of participants before taking any data from a respondent and will participate in the study. Providing initiative. Most of the people do not participate because in the study. Most of the people do not participate in the study because of the incentives to the study, but they are motivated because of the most of the people do not participate in the study because of the incentives because they are motivated because of the importance of the study. Giving a gift before data collection is not ethical or a part of the researcher. That is totally wrong. Seeking sensitive information. Sometimes the researcher seeking sensitive information. Some piece of information can be regarded as sensitive or confidential by some people. Possibility of causing harm to the participant. When you collect data from respondents or involve subject experiment, you need to examine carefully whether their environment likely to harm them in any way. Then maintaining confidentiality in case the researcher had to identify the respondents and information need to be sought more than maintain confidentiality in case the researcher has to identify the respondents in case the researcher has to identify the respondent and as information need to be sought more than once, sharing information about the respondents with others for purpose other than this is not ethical, and at least the information provided by the respondent should be kept in. It means that the information shared by the respondent should be used for academic and research purpose only, and use other than this purpose this is unethical and illegal. Thank you so much for listening carefully. If you have any doubt, any query, you can post in the comment section. I will surely make videos. Thank you so much.